So, Fortnite is dying for the 10 millionth time in the game's history since Chapter 1, Season 5, okay? There was a tweet that was put out by my boy FN News, which if you don't know who FN News is, you need to go over there. FN News posts some really good stuff. I like FN News. FN News is the GOAT. But he made this tweet today. He said, Fortnite player has compiled a list of average monthly player base for every season since Chapter 4, Season 3, which is as far back as the data goes on our end. The data was collected from Fortnite.gg, so it should be fairly accurate. Now, before we really get into this and break it down and talk about what's going on and all that, I am skeptical about these numbers here because some other people have pointed out to me the average has been higher. These numbers are very interesting. Last year, we did a live stream with Pro Zero, Mr. JLY, and I think Loot was a part of it too. But we did a stream where we kind of broke down the numbers of average player count over the last few years up to that point, which in that season, I believe, we were in Fortnite Super, if I remember correctly. Maybe it was the beginning. No, it should have been right before Shock and Awesome, to be fair. But from what I can remember, these numbers are pretty much accurate. Like I said, with the only exception of being Showdown, which 794,000 seems kind of low. But I want to presume that that is accurate. And honestly, if we're paying attention to trends here, I believe these numbers for Chapter 7, Season 1 was accurate, or were accurate. So, Fortnite seasons, as you can see, over time they tend to downward trend up until the fall to winter time when people are inside more, then it spikes back up. But this is kind of, if we're going towards a downhill trend, if these numbers are accurate, we're going towards a downhill trend. It is very telling of where we're at right now. One of the things that we said in the live stream we did last year was that Fortnite content has also been on a downhill trend. Cypher, plenty of other content creators have been very vocal about this. You've seen a lot of discourse between different commentary channels talking, including myself, talking about part of the problem is the repetitive nature of the content, and other people are saying it's not just the repetitive nature of the content, it's also the fact that Fortnite's not doing enough to make the game interesting, yada, 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 all this stuff. Now, fast forward to right now, Fortnite Chapter 7, Season 2. In my opinion, this is one of the best Fortnite seasons of all time. I don't think it's necessarily in my top 5, but I think you could argue, if you wanted to put in your top 5, I wouldn't be mad at you. And I think you could argue it's a top 10 in a lot of cases. When I'm looking at this season, gameplay-wise, storyline-wise, a lot of the things that I had asked for in the height of my career doing Fortnite commentary content, these are things that a lot of things I've asked for outside of just the gameplay and the storyline being really good. We had fantastic communication between the Fortnite devs and the community, which is something else that we've been asking for. Far better communication than we've ever had in the history of the game. And on top of that, because of the devs' active participation in the community, they have put on a series of special events, community-focused events, which were designed to unify the community, which is also something I have been wanting for a long time. Last year, in my opinion, it started with Ninja's Blitz Week, things like that, like community-focused days centered around a single content creator. Stuff like that was really cool. I love that. That was so neat that they did that for Ninja. And then we had Delulu. After that, it just progressed into these what are the Saturday events called? The Power Hours. The Saturday Power Hours were a staple of the game, incentivizing people to get on Fortnite either in the early in the afternoon or late in the evening to jump on and play Fortnite for double XP and special weapons in the loot pool, special items, all that. I think that was a fantastic idea. And then, of course, Fortnite's first ever community day. We're leading up to it. We had some old rare cosmetics being returned to the item shop. As well as we had an entire day for where you got double XP for the remainder of the season if you logged in, as well as some exclusive cosmetics, some old cosmetics that had never been released before if you won a victory royale. But just with everything I'm saying, W. Hats off to Tofu Chris, to Ted Timmons, and the entire Fortnite crew over there, all the people that have been vocal, even at the risk of their own safety potentially because of some things that had happened recently. Our good friend Chris is back on Twitter. So once again, round of applause for Chris. Much love to you, brother. We're good to see you back. You're doing God's work over there at Epic. And regardless of who says what or the reason why or whatever, we appreciate you. And my community and the greater Fortnite community, I believe, sees the value that you've been presenting. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Why is it important to talk about this? What is important to understand? Let me go. Oh, that's the wrong button. That's the wrong button. There we go. Let's go here. What's important to understand is that in spite of all of this amazing stuff, in spite of how awesome the game is right now, the gameplay, the storyline, we got a peak live event coming up pretty soon. The community interaction, all of the synergy going on between the devs, the community, the content, all that, it's all great. It's all good. The player numbers are still low. And so that begs the question, why? If the gameplay's good, and the storyline's good, and we're objectively getting more content than we ever have before, we've got all this communication, things are constantly being reworked, being rebalanced, we've got all these new modes, everything being added into the game, what is the problem? And I think it comes down to something that I said in my commentary video on like the decline of Fortnite or Fortnite's, like, I forget. You can go look at the video. I'll have it up on screen or it'll be at the end of this video or something. But I made a commentary video going into deep diving into my perspective on what's happening. And when I woke up this morning and I saw all this stuff going on Twitter, there's something very interesting that I saw. A lot of people are under and this is a very weird narrative, but I saw it taking shape on Twitter. A lot of people are under the perception that the storyline is to blame. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, like, Fortnite is too storyline focused right now. The storyline, guys, need to understand that the game, this isn't about story, it needs to be about gameplay. Which it's a very confusing narrative because in no way is the storyline negatively impacting the game right now. The storyline is the thing that unifies the entire community together. I've always said that. You have to have events like the Fortnite storyline now, like the community days, like the power hours, to bring people to the game, to have a sense of unity in the community, things that bring people together. And that's very important, even more so than it used to be when I first made commentary content, because we've got so many modes inside of Fortnite. Things that we can all look forward to, things that we can all share our excitement for together are so important when you've got modes like Reload and Blitz and Main Battle Royale and OG and Lego, all these different modes inside of Fortnite. It's so important that we have something or a series of things that the community can look forward to. Community events are so important. But once again, the weird thing is, in spite of this, player counts dip. Slower. Even if these numbers are inaccurate, that we saw in this tweet over here, right? I do believe that it's safe to say that they're probably lower than they were last year. And I want to go through each one of these and kind of talk about like kind of go through the timeline of events. So Fortnite, so here's something I find funny when I analyze some of these numbers. A lot of the seasons that people said were the worst abominations to mankind are some of the best performing seasons on this list. Now, you could argue that that's because of the argument I'm going to make later, which is that over time, people's interest in Fortnite just declines because the longer a game is out, the less interest and hype it's going to be able to generate naturally, just like anything. But at the same time, you can look at something like Wilds, which based on the player numbers clearly shows that this was a concept that just did not hit with the community because it still has numbers that are lower than seasons that came later in the timeline. So that argument doesn't always work. But I think as a general rule of thumb, if we're looking at the aggregate, the just the average overall, it's obvious that it's obvious that interest in Fortnite is declining over time, and that's okay. That's natural. The thing that I want to say before I start breaking some of this stuff down is I do think that people hold Fortnite to an unrealistic standard. And it's because Fortnite is probably one of the most influential games in gaming history. Fortnite is a game that in many ways kind of sparked a new economy inside of gaming itself. This was the game that motivated people like me, or showed people like me, that you could make a living off of playing video games. Before Fortnite, although that was possible, it wasn't really perceived as the thing. Fortnite was the game that really broke a lot of barriers. It broke the barrier of celebrities hanging out with YouTubers or content creators, making that a more frequent thing with Ninja, Drake, Travis Scott, the different artists that he played with on stream. Ninja basically becoming an A-list celebrity almost overnight because of him being really good at a video game and these hip-hop artists taking interest in him. Fortnite was the game that introduced the concept of the battle pass, a fun FOMO model, which I'm going to stand on this. At the time when the battle pass was first introduced, everybody loved it. Everybody had fun with it. We knew that the skins were going to be there for a limited amount of time, but we had fun with the idea of grinding for those things because the game was new and it was fun and it was constantly delivering on things that we wanted. As someone that was around at that time that played as someone who's played since Fortnite Chapter 1, Season 1. Fortnite was the first game to really introduce collabs into the way that they did and intertwine them into their story's overall narrative. Fortnite was also the first game to introduce live events to the capacity that they did. All of these things that I'm talking about are things that other games copied. Fortnite, I could be wrong on this, but I highly doubt it because before this most of us didn't even know this was possible. But Fortnite was also the game that introduced the concept of cross-platform play and made that a staple in gaming. Before Fortnite, I could have never imagined that I could play a video game on my PlayStation with a friend that has an Xbox, with another friend that has a PC, and with another friend that has a phone. At the time when that happened, that was the craziest thing any of us had ever seen. These are just some of the achievements that Fortnite has made over the years. Fortnite has completely transformed and changed the gaming landscape, the gaming ecosystem, and really just it spawned on a new generation of people that were able to monetize themselves in a way that could have never been seen, that was never imaginable before. The idea of, like, from the generation that I grew up in, right? Growing up in the mid-90s to early 2000s, your parents saying, get out the video games because no loser, my son's not going to be some loser that sits around and plays video games all goddamn day into his 20s and 30s. That idea quickly melted away after Fortnite came out because people became millionaires within months of the game's success. But why am I bringing all this up? The point that I'm trying to get to here is that Fortnite, because of its influence, because of how much it changed gaming, because of how much it changed the internet culture, streaming, how these content creators that came up they were there at the perfect time, the perfect storm for where the internet was, where this game was in history, the worldwide cultural phenomenon that was Fortnite. Because of its success, I believe we, generally speaking, tend to hold Fortnite to an unrealistic standard. Because a lot of us, even if you weren't playing the game, a lot of us remember a time when Fortnite ran the damn world. And the moment we got access to player count numbers is the moment that everybody became a professional Fortnite analyst and could be able to properly deduce what is healthy for the game and what isn't. Now, we do know a few things to be true. Number one, 1,000 people were just laid off from Epic. That is tragic. That's tough. That is not a good sign for the company overall. But that's more than just a Fortnite problem. That's more of an Epic Games problem. Fortnite is just one game under the Epic Games umbrella. But we're going to move that to the side. The price of V-Bucks was also just raised. That also sucks. These are a lot of things that I hear people talk about when they're talking about Fortnite's decline and why people currently aren't wanting to play it. And although those things are tragic and all those things are true, I think what the Fortnite community needs to understand is that the people that are really analyzing this stuff or really getting into this stuff on the internet are not the average Fortnite player. If you are watching me right now, whether this be the live stream or the recorded video of this that is going to go up on my YouTube channel later, whether you are somebody that interacts on Twitch or Discord or Reddit or TikTok, you absorb a lot of Fortnite content frequently, you are a hardcore Fortnite fan. But the average person, the normie, the person that comes to Fortnite because their favorite Vic collab is inside the game, the person that sees like, oh man, Fortnite OG, I remember that. I kind of want to play that. It was cool back in the day. The average 9 to 5 worker that just wants to come home and kick it with his homies and relive the glory days by playing a couple of rounds of Fortnite just to unwind for the weekend. Though that is the average Fortnite player. But the people that are invested in the Fortnite communities are the most hardcore. And generally speaking, if you're absorbed into Fortnite content, you are going to see things, be privy to things that the average person is not going to. Now, why do I say this? The reason why I say this is because it kind of relates to a bigger problem that the Fortnite community always has, which relates to its toxicity, something that we've also talked about recently. But the issue is that the people that are the hardcore fans, what you need to learn is that your opinion and your perspective is not the most important thing in the world. Yes, the layoffs are bad. Yes, the rising cost of V-Bucks sucks. But if I'm John Schmo that just like wants to crack open a 6-pack and get on with the boys after working at the plant on a Friday evening and just vibe for a couple of hours, do you really think that I'm caring about the Epic Games layoffs? Probably not. Now, do I care about the rising cost of V-Bucks? Potentially, depending on how many skins I think I need to buy. But the problem with the V-Bucks argument is that it has no bearing on actually being able to enjoy the game. I don't have to buy V-Bucks in order to play Fortnite. As a matter of fact, Fortnite as a video game is still free. I might decrease the amount of V-Bucks that I spend money on. I might decrease I might cancel my Fortnite crew. I might stop buying battle passes, but I don't have to stop playing Fortnite doesn't all of a sudden overnight magically just stop becoming fun because, well, now we've got V-Buck price increases and 1,000 people got laid off that I don't know about because I'm an average consumer and not a Fortnite nerd that is on the internet analyzing all this stuff, blaming Tim Sweeney because he's the devil. Once again, this is not to make light of those things because objectively those are bad. We don't like that when those things like that happen. But I think we underestimate the mentality of the average Fortnite player. Because, once again, the people that are consuming the content are not necessarily the average Fortnite players. As a matter of fact, I would argue that there are a lot of people that watch Fortnite content that don't even play the game. But the opposite is also true. But I would argue, and this is what a lot of my friends have told me, we've talked about in the past, and I think there's no way for me to know this for sure, but it just, honestly, logically, it just makes the most sense. The majority of people that play Fortnite probably aren't watching Fortnite content. If Fortnite is still averaging about 10 million concurrent per day, maybe it's a little less than that, I do not believe that the majority of those people are constantly being absorbed into Fortnite content, especially with the decline of Fortnite content. The largest creators in the space have all expressed their concerns about their content dipping in views. Cypher, Nick A30, Courage, the list goes on and on. We went through this last year. We went through this at the start of this year. It's very telling. It's a very telling sign when it's not just people losing interest in playing the game, but it's also people losing interest in watching the content associated with the game. And I give my perspective, my reasons on that. I still do think that part of it is because a lot of the content is very samey, but at the same time, and this is a point that Cypher brought up, and I thought it was very fantastic. What we do have to understand is that Fortnite, the Fortnite content that Cypher and the larger creators put out, it works. And to this day, it is still the most effective content when it comes to getting views. You can make all the other types of experimental storyline, commentary, whatever type of content, but none of it is performing as well as the legacy Fortnite content creators. There's also other factors at play, like YouTube specifically. Its algorithm is not pushing long form videos out as much as it used to, so that also affects views. That has also been brought to my attention, which I think is another fantastic point when it comes to the overall viewership on YouTube. But overall, Fortnite viewership is down across primarily YouTube, sometimes on TikTok as well. I do not believe that Fortnite is it's not getting the same heights as it was even 3 years ago. But if you want to make Fortnite content, the best place right now is honestly short form. Short form content is what performs the best out of everything. Anyway, my whole point for saying all of this stuff, I know I'm rambling, but the whole point for all of this is to show that Fortnite in and of itself is just not as popular as it once was. And we've seen other games go through this before too. Minecraft is the best example I can think of. But Minecraft went through even the content creators, they went through a period where the content was not performing as well, and the people and the content creators, their content was dipping. And this is an era when YouTube was pushing out long form content. There's a lot more factors at play. The internet's a lot different now. The culture of gaming is different now. And also, we got to keep in mind the battle royale genre in aggregate as a whole, like it's just less popular than it was. It's just the tides are shifting. And I think you're going to notice, you're already noticing that. You should be noticing a lot of content creators are starting to realize this too. You're starting to see content creators start experimenting with things outside of Fortnite. Starting to experiment with IRL content, starting to experiment with other games. I see a lot of Fortnite content creators playing GTA or 007 or some single player game. There's a lot of experimentation going on. So I've even heard of some people like giving up, like, you know what, I'm stepping away from Fort. I got to do some other stuff. I got to branch out. Even I have been doing that myself on this channel. The era of people being primarily or solely Fortnite focused for a lot of people is coming to an end. But I will say this, I do think for the people that are going to stay in Fortnite content and stick it out, I do think that there's going to be fantastic potential for you. I think it's going to be fantastic opportunity, because anytime that there's great distress within an economy of any kind, there's also fantastic opportunity. And Fortnite is established enough of a game to where, in spite of its current downhill trend, there will be something at some point in time. I don't know what it's going to be or when. Maybe in the next 6 months. Maybe in the next couple of years. Maybe in 5 years. Who knows? But Fortnite will do something, or something will happen. Some resurgence around the game will happen to get people and content creators back, and you will see a new resurgence of interest in Fortnite. Now, will it be as big as the OG days? I highly doubt it. I don't see that happening. I don't think Fortnite will ever be as big as it was when the game first came out. It's very difficult to do that, but I do think that it will be a lot better than it is now. And this is something I've been trying to say for the last few months, and I've seen some content creators disagree with me, and God bless you, I understand where you're coming from. But I think you got to start looking at the bigger picture a little bit. The problem with Fortnite content currently is that the amount of effort that it takes to crack 1 million views or 500,000 views, or a couple 100,000, whatever, the amount of effort that it takes to make a video go viral or make a video do well is far more effort than what's required for content in other niches. And if you're versatile enough of a creator to branch out to other things where there are objectively more eyeballs because the pool of people is bigger, then it almost behooves you to step out into other arenas where more people can see you, where your videos can get more views, and you can make more money for less effort. And that's, quite frankly, the uncomfortable truth about the current state of Fortnite and Fortnite content. From my perspective, because a lot of people ask, like, so where am I at? Where do I think? What am I doing? I don't know. Actually, let me say this. I'm not ever going to be in a position where I'm going to just announce, like, I'm quitting Fortnite. I think that's stupid. Even though the game is like the player count is lower, I don't hate the game. This is still like my favorite video game as of right now. It's still like my favorite video game on the planet. And even in Fortnite's, how do I say this? Even in Fortnite's downhill trends, there is still a lot of value to be had from even being a Fortnite content creator. There's still fantastic ways to monetize yourself. And if you're going to make content on a video game, outside of Grand Theft Auto or Roblox, Fortnite is probably the best game you can do it on. Now, let's pay attention to where we're at now in some of these numbers, okay? Because if we're at around 794,000 on average for the whole month, what does this mean for the summertime? Because as history has shown us, when the summer hits, summer season, player counts tend to dip from where they were before compared to colder, seasons based around in colder months. If we're at 794 here, what's this summer going to look like? 400,000, 700, or maybe another 700,000, 650,000? Who knows? But what I need people to understand is this. The lack of player interest has not so much to do with the game currently being bad. I just think that over time, people get tired of things. Let me give you an example. Hollywood movies. The Transformer movies. I know I got to glaze Transformers. Okay, we got to have a Transformers analogy if it's a Clark Clint live stream. All right, W Transformers. The Transformer movies were a juggernaut of a franchise. I think it's one of the few. It was one of the first few movies to crack like $1 billion. Transformers, the first movie, the 2007 movie. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Transformers: Age of Extinction. All of those movies, I believe, grossed $1 billion plus. But then after Age of Extinction, it kind of dipped. Interest in Transformers just started a nosedive. Then we had the Bumblebee movie, less viewers, and then the Rise of the Beasts, barely broke even, if I remember correctly. And then Transformers 1 tried to take a new approach. Okay, not live action, fully animated Transformers movie. That also didn't perform well in the box office. So what that shows is that over time, even though Transformers will always be like an iconic brand, over time, the interest in those productions and movie productions has dipped. Even the MCU has seen this. People have been talking about the concept of superhero movie fatigue. And although I don't think that's true, I think that when you are constantly trying to pump out new content consistently, and you're saturating your market with content, over time, it does, I don't want to say it devalues your brand per se, but consistent exposure to your brand over time, not giving people enough time to kind of forget about you and then come back, it does cheapen the overall perception of your content, of your brand. YouTubers, content creators, we go through this. For film franchises go through this. And my point is Fortnite is going through this. Guys, we have over 40 seasons of this game. The game's been out for almost 9 years now. If you honestly, in your heart of hearts, believe that Fortnite should be averaging even the numbers that we saw in OG, it's just not reasonable at this point. Now, with what I'm saying, certain people are going to have a problem. And the reason why they're going to have a problem with it is because they feel like, oh, you're glazing Epic, you're giving them an out. It's not their fault, right? This is not to say that there aren't things that Epic can do to make the game better. For example, when I said that this season is fantastic, that doesn't mean it's perfect. But here's my thing, and this is the problem that I have with these conversations. In my time doing commentary, I covered a wide variety of topics from pretty much every aspect of the community. And with what I've realized after doing so much content for so many years is that Fortnite is always going to have some problem with it. There's always going to be some shotgun that's unbalanced. There's always going to be some season that just doesn't hit the same. There's always going to be some battle pass that's complete trash. There's always going to be something that Epic does as a company, as a corporation, that you're going to be able to blame Tim Sweeney for and say, see, greedy, evil billionaire, all that, right? It's always going to be something to complain about when it comes to this game. Some content creator or celebrity or something's going to be put in the game to piss off people. There's going to be a collab you don't like. There's always going to be something wrong. But you know what? That's okay. Fortnite is going to survive, even though these numbers do look bad, and they will probably get worse. Fortnite's going to be okay. I honestly, quite frankly, after playing this season through to the end, with the build-up and the hype for the live event and everything that we got going on now, I honestly don't know what more Epic could do to have made this season more exciting. I'm seeing a lot of complaints about like balancing the game out. I don't really know if that would have made much of a difference. if one weapon over here, the cube rifle was more balanced, and maybe we had a little less mobility. I just don't know if that would make the biggest difference in the world. Would we maybe get an additional 100,000 players? Potentially. Would we maybe get an additional 30,000 players? Potentially, but we would still be having this conversation now. Quite frankly, I think even if we got another 500,000 players, people would still be crying about how, but Absolute Doom had 1.6 and even Wrecked had 1.3 million. Fortnite Chapter 5 was just objectively better, and it had the metaverse. There's going to be, there's no way that Epic can win with this conversation. But what I want everybody to understand is, regardless of what happens in the future, regardless of how bad things are going to look or how bad things are going to get, I think if Fortnite, the best chance that Fortnite has is with this current team of developers. That this is the best, in my opinion. This is the best the Fortnite culture has been in terms of community interaction with Epic ever. The storyline is fantastic. Again, it's not perfect, but I think it's fantastic. The amount of live events that we're getting, the communication between us and Epic is great, even though we have some people that want to ruin that. The devs are firing all cylinders. I think the season themes are good. The collabs don't feel intrusive and overbearing on the overall season theme. The theme is consistent all the way through to the end. Even if I want there to be more voice lines, more stuff done with the story, when I look at what is being done with the story, they're doing things that have never been done before. Like the synergy between all the different modes, the story weaving between every mode. There's just so much to be enjoyed at this point. And for me personally, I'm tired of just trying to analyze this every few months and do another Fortnite We Need to Talk video, because that's not why I came to this game. Like I told y'all the other day, that's not what you guys came to this game for. When I was a kid, nobody sat around and tried to figure out what the greedy, evil billionaires were doing and how they were tanking the game. But to be fair, when I was a kid, we didn't have social media, and we couldn't look at player count numbers. And the games that we had weren't live service. You bought the game, and that's what the game was. But the issue was, the risk with that was sometimes the games were just complete ass, and there was no way to patch it or update it. But we had a lot of great games. In my mind, Fortnite, even in its worst state, whatever you might think that to be, some of y'all think it's Wreck. Some of y'all are going to say it's Galactic Battle. Some of y'all are going to say it's Chapter 6 Season 1. Some of y'all are going to say it's Wild. Some of y'all are going to say it's Simpsons. Everybody's got their opinions. But, regardless what the worst seasons are, Fortnite is still going to hold players. It's too big of a game to die. Doesn't mean that it's not going to have its problems. Doesn't mean that there aren't going to be some things to be fixed. And I want to make this clear, too. It doesn't mean that there shouldn't be, continue to be voices that speak up about the problems with this game. But at the same time, I think we need to be reasonable. The longer something is out, the less impactful it will be. The Fortnite community, in many ways, is very spoiled. We get so many updates. Weekly, damn near weekly updates. And even if it's bi-weekly, the stuff that gets changed is insane. No other game does this. This is one of the craziest games I've ever seen. And it really, at its core, it's the childhood concept of you on the floor with your toy box playing with all your toys. And your friends are playing with their toys, and your friend comes over to your house, and he brings over his action figures, and Spider-Man is swinging around Optimus Prime to kick Megatron in the face, and then Dr. Doom throws Vegeta at him, and Perfect Cell comes out and kicks Optimus in the face. That's what Fortnite is. It's that at its essence. And a concept like that, it's too powerful to just completely die. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being too ultra optimistic. Maybe I'm being naive. I guess only time will tell. But I'm willing to bet that before it's all over with, in the grand scheme of things, as time goes on, I think what I'm saying will prove to come true. It's not, once again, the game's not in the best space. It's not in the best spot right now. It's not. In terms of player count. But in terms of fun, man, I have had so much fun this season. A lot of you guys have had a lot of fun this season. And that's what I want to focus on. And until the game stops being fun, or until the game inevitably dies, as people like to say, well, that's when I'll stop playing. But until then, I'm just going to keep enjoying it.